Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com. This is episode 39 of Fans Talk Lucha. My name is Garvin, and on this week's episode, we're going to recap and react to Lucha Underground episode 13 of season 2. I don't know about you guys. It seems like every week is pay-per-view quality. It seems like every week we have matches built up based on really quality stories and really quality feuds to look forward to each and every week. And this in particular was right up there. It was right up there in that sense. We had the final match of the Trios tournament already planned, and we also had the main event. The main event, Matanza versus Mil Muertes for the Lucha Underground Championship. Those are the two major matches built up, but let's go ahead and just run through the event. I gotta say, Matanza versus Mil, one of my favorite matches of the year so far, specifically of this season of Lucha Underground. It's exactly... It panned out exactly, exactly how I wanted it to. So we started off with a backstage segment where Cueto is talking with Phoenix, basically, congratulating him for surviving against Matanza. But instead of not doing much of anything with him, he wanted to book him in the Trios tournament. In the room at the same time, we had Drago and Aerostar. So his first his first idea was to partner the three of them together. Now, we all know the history between these three. These three were a part of the original Trios tournament. They did not go past the they did not go past the first round because that was right around the beginning of the Drago versus Aerostar feud. They had a best of 5 match series, a lot of good memories from that feud. So Cueto realizes this, acknowledges it, and he totally disregarded that idea. He didn't want to repeat history, didn't want to see if they were all friends again. Instead, he puts Phoenix into the Trios tournament and partnering them with Jack Evans and PJ Black. And he books Aerostar versus Drago to see if they really are friends here in a match for one of the ancient Aztec medallions. Drago versus Aerostar was our first match of the night, and by far, I would easily put this in the top 5 matches of the year for Lucha Underground for this season. Drago versus Aerostar, very, very equally matched. I mean, we saw a lot of good stuff from them in that best of 5 series last season. So to see them go up against one another again, to see how they are equally matched, it really showcased just, the level of talent that was here in this matchup. Drago versus Aerostar. Aerostar won. It probably, I wouldn't necessarily say this was their best match of the two. Aerostar, whether legit or within the story, seemed to play up this injury really early on in the match, and it slowed things down. So the first, I want to say maybe 2-3 minutes was this solid back and forth, reversal after reversal, flip after flip. These guys really showcased what they can do on that acrobatic level. But Aerostar won. Aerostar wins a medallion. I think Tejano at this point is the only other one to earn a medallion. And live chat's bringing up the idea or just recognizing that Aerostar had this weird botch in like off the turnbuckle. He's basically trying to, dive to the outside and fell off the turnbuckle, or fell off the corner. And it's, again, it's hard to tell. Was that an actual botch? Was that, part of the story to sell the injury that he sustained to his knee, to continue to push the rest of the match? And, ultimately, again, it's really hard to tell, but I do want to give credit to the crowd. If this was in WWE, if this was in TNA, you would hear the crowd just become super critical against a guy who messes up. And they weren't. They gave like a little moment of silence to verify that he was okay, and we're still into the match. The commentary team really pushed this as far as, this is one of the problems with high risk moves is that, you've got the slick ropes based on lots of sweat, even though this was the first match of the night. But it's easy to slip off the ropes. So I just like the overall atmosphere around this. I thought it was really good. Whether or not this was a legit botch or not, I think the fact that the crowd didn't let this take over, that the crowd didn't let this stop the match, or stop the momentum of the match. They really just allowed this to keep going. So I was very happy about that. Next up, we had a little video package, and it was Johnny Mundo working out. Taya came up to him, basically talked about how good he looked, and I don't know. I don't really have a reference point here. I don't necessarily agree, but yeah. So Johnny Mundo looks good, whatever, but apparently she was on a mission to force Cueto to hand Johnny Mundo a medallion. Unfortunately for them, Cueto denied it. Instead, he put Johnny Mundo in a match, and it's against Cage, the man that they call Cage. And what really makes this feel so important is it's now in a cage match. So you've got Johnny Mundo versus Cage in a cage, Cage in a cage. It's this is maybe the climax of their feud, but this is definitely this is definitely a good opportunity. And I could be wrong. My memory is not the greatest, but for me, this seems like this is the first cage match of Lucha Underground. So, knowing that they do things a little bit differently in the temple, I'm curious how the cage match is going to work. And what I'm really hoping for is that they take the cage match back to what it used to be, which was you either you escape the cage. So the first person to escape the cage wins, and Johnny Mundo would be literally doing that in twofold because he's escaping Cage from the cage. So yeah, overall, I'm really looking forward to this. I hope they don't include pinfalls and submissions. I think that really takes away from, what could be a really epic story with, cage match with escaping the cage. That's really a highlight from my childhood memories of seeing that in WWE. And, I'm really hoping that they go ahead and do that. And, Ishmael is reminding me, thank you for doing that. In the live chat, the second cage match last year was Johnny Mundo versus King Cuerno. And I cannot remember, was it a pinfall and submission? Were those allowed, or was it just escaping the cage? Again, my memory is bad in that sense. I cannot remember that match in particular. And once again, just want to throw out here, if you want to join the live chat, all you have to do is become a Patreon subscriber. Go to squaredcircleoftrust.com. We record every episode of Fans Talk Lucha, 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. So Ishmael is saying it was a pinfall submission, so we probably will see that. But it would be nice to get those old school rules back into place as far as cage matches go. Either way, it's going to be great, and I am looking forward to see how this plays into, the overall feud. Again, this is a moment that they could, that they can climax here and move in different directions. I think we're almost at that point as far as, tolerance level. You want to start seeing Cage do something a little bit more productive. You want to see Mundo doing the same thing. This back and forth between the two is good, but it's not necessarily meaningless, but without like a title race in there, without a end result or an obvious end goal for either of the two, it does make it hard to continue to go through every single week or every other week or, the schedule. Next matchup was PJ Black, Jack Evans, and Phoenix versus the Disciples of Death. This is the final match of the Trios tournament, the first round. And, just going back to how this story was put in place is specifically with the Disciples of Death. We saw them lose the titles. We saw them basically get a lot of grief from Katrina and from Mil Muertes. And the idea was that this was their redemption. This was their chance to get back the Trios Championship and get back into good light with Katrina and Mil. So, this match I thought was rather interesting. Again, PJ Black and Jack Evans, they have worked together. They have shown some kind of good chemistry between the two. Seemed like they were on the same page. This match, however, it played out really strangely, I thought. And I don't know if this is just a new direction they're going to go with Jack Evans, but there seemed to be a lot of tension between Jack Evans and PJ Black. In particular, Evans basically refused to enter the match throughout the show and or throughout the competition until like those heelish opportune times, which I think would work with a heel and a face. But to have Jack Evans play that role with PJ Black, I thought was kind of strange. It definitely showed that they weren't necessarily working together on the same page. It was almost as if PJ Black and Phoenix were working together. I mean, they had the common goal to win this match. Jack Evans, I'm sure that was a goal, but the way he came off in character very much seemed that he was more out to showcase himself and not necessarily like the ending of the match most likely wouldn't have mattered to him as long as he looked good. That's how it came off. I'm not sure how that's going to move forward. But overall, a lot of infighting between PJ Black and Jack Evans, a lot of infighting between the two of them and Phoenix. And ultimately, I think what we're seeing here is this season's quote unquote odd couple. We saw this last trios tournament with Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, and Angelico. None of them were on the same page. None of them necessarily wanted to be together, but they were able to put that stuff behind them so that they could win the titles. And they became basically, your trios champions at the end of the tournament. This team seems like that is what we're going to see here. As far as Phoenix, PJ Black, Jack Evans, they won this match. They were able to defeat the Disciples of Death. And overall, I'm interested. I'm interested to see how this plays out because, Phoenix being a part of this group is definitely odd. It's definitely not what you would normally expect. And it's definitely different than, say the odd partnership between Joey Ryan and the Crew. Comparing it to Team Fight from last season, this is very similar to that. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I don't necessarily know if they're going to win, but we'll talk about that in a moment. We'll give some predictions, because that trios tournament, the final match, basically the finals of the tournament is going to be happening. I don't think next week. It might be the following week. I'm not quite sure, but we'll still talk about it. Backstage, Cueto was talking to the trios champions, so Team Fight, Ivelisse, and Helico, and Son of Havoc, and basically, again, was very he was praising them for able to put their issues aside and to do what they needed to do to win the titles. And while this tournament was basically was a to determine who the number one contenders were for the titles, instead Cueto swerves it. And now Team Fight is in that final match. They got a bye in the first round, so your final match is a 4-team elimination match. I think they said elimination match. Team Fight versus PJ Black, Jack Evans, and Phoenix versus Dragon Azteca Jr., Rey Mysterio, Prince Puma versus Joey Ryan and the Crew. That is going to be a very good match. Probably going to be hectic. Again, if it's elimination, and I think it was, I didn't necessarily write that down, but memory serves me, it was an elimination match. And if that's the case, we can see some really good things. If it's not an elimination match, yeah, you've got that potential for there to be, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff that'll be hard to keep track of. But overall, I'm looking forward to this match. Looking forward to how this determines who is going to lead the trios championship title race moving forward. So, and hopefully, all 4 of these teams continue, because, again, Joey Ryan and the Crew, not on the same page for the most part, but they worked very well together. PJ Black, Jack Evans, Phoenix, the same thing. Not really on the same page, but they look good together. They work well together. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. But speaking of Disciples of Death, and this is being talked about in the live chat, and I am sorry. I'm going to try to pronounce this. El Siniestro de la Muerte. That's the guy with the purple mask. I'm not necessarily confused by this segment. I'm not necessarily concerned by this segment, but it definitely was odd. So Katrina, backstage with the Disciples of Death, basically calls them all out, says that they, let Mill and Katrina down, and, and she basically called them out and said, who will give her reason not to destroy them. And without hesitation, the purple masked guy, which is El Siniestro de la Muerte, he ripped Tracy's heart out. And then he ripped the other guy's heart out. I mean, literally ripped his heart out. And he held it in his hand, and it was a black heart. Seemed smaller than a normal heart. I don't know heart size, but it seemed like it should be a little larger than your hand. But either way, this was odd. Again, this is something that we're not used to seeing, especially in wrestling. So, but they are keeping in the general storyline that we've seen before. This isn't necessarily outside of the realm of believability within Lucha Underground. But at the same time, like, he just murdered 2 guys, and I don't think anything's gonna come of it. But yeah, so yeah, basically he's going to be going on his own. Now, is that with Katrina? I would imagine. I would imagine he would stick with Katrina and Mill. But yeah, he basically eliminated the other two. Now we just have the one disciple of death. And who knows? Who knows what's going to happen moving forward? If he's going to enter the tournament for the ancient Aztec medallions, or what. But definitely interested to see how this moves forward. Yes, it was kind of cheesy. I have a hard time swallowing what happened here, but it should be interesting to see how things move forward. And that leads us to our main event. Main event of Matanza versus Mill for the Lucha Underground Championship. It is a match that I know I was really, really looking forward to over the last week or two, that we knew this was going to happen. And we knew that these two were going to battle at some point. And to have two monsters, two guys the size they are, battle it out, loved it. There was a little bit of that Lucha Underground flippiness to it at times, but overall it was just powerhouse versus powerhouse to see who was the strongest, who could withstand the impact of the other's punch, that sort of thing. And I thought the story that was told within that match was great. Cueto, Katrina, they both got involved, both got basically grabbed by the neck by the opposing wrestler. And overall I thought it was very good, but no winner. There was no winner in this match. The match ended when both basically fought into the crowd, fought up to the top of Cueto's office. Mil Muertes hit a flatliner on a Matanza, and both went through the roof. It was crazy. It was a crazy sight to see both go down. And what I really enjoyed most about this was the fact that they ended the match there. Like, they knew that potentially both of them could have suffered severe injuries. There was no way to really tell. There was smoke and dust everywhere from the crash. So yeah, definitely looking forward to see, who is the first one standing at the beginning of the next episode. But yeah, this was overall exactly what we wanted. I'm glad that we don't have a clear winner. I'm glad that, there is reason to believe that this will continue, and this might be your main event at Ultima Lucha. I think overall this is a good story. Not just because of who is in the ring as far as Mil Muertes versus Matanza, those two powerhouses, those two, brutes going at it, but it was also, the fact that this is also about control over the temple. Daria Cueto versus Katrina. They both, want that power, and to be with the guy that holds the title is what secures that power. So, ultimately, I really, really do like where they're going. Beanbags in the live chat saying Matanza does nothing but impress, and I'm completely with you. I think what we've seen from him thus far up until this match, his ability to do standing moonsaults, all of those suplexes, fantastic. And what we saw in this match was very similar. It was the same. We didn't see a standing moonsault, but we did see that he has the power to lift Mil Muertes, a guy the size of Mil Muertes, basically a guy that is his size. It was 3 gut wrench suplexes in a row, different things like that, and still, standing after being basically destroyed by Mil Muertes, and vice versa. It is this awesome, unstoppable force versus the immovable object, that type of thing. This was great. So I was very, very, very happy with how this turned out, and I cannot wait to see how this continues. The episode ended with a video package. This was a little video where the police chief was continuing to do her investigation, her research on Cueto, looking at people that were now missing, including El Patron, including Blue Demon. And it's just interesting to see like how they're tying that all together. Like maybe they're involved and maybe they were taken out by Cueto. I do enjoy that aspect of it, that they're, playing with the idea of where did these guys go? Because, usually when you go from a wrestling company, they might not even mention you. They might not even mention the fact that you're gone. But the fact that they have posters up of these guys, and those are potential either suspects or just other victims of Cueto, I thought was an interesting take on it. So, however, a councilman walks in and he says that his jurisdiction is Boyle Heights, and he recommends that she drop the case against Cueto in a suggestion from his boss. And he's not talking about the mayor. Really intriguing. Should be interesting to see how this moves forward. Like, is his boss Cueto? Is his boss another higher power guy that we haven't seen yet? It should be pretty cool. I am in fact really enjoying this story. So that was it. That was this week in Lucha Underground. Again, each match had that main event quality. Each match were definitely pay-per-view worthy. Wins of the week. My win is going to go to the main event. Not initially the main event. I mean, that was great, but I love the fact that both Matanza and Mil have this dramatic entrance, have this dramatic music, and it really made this match feel so much more important. It wasn't like a high-paced music. It was very dramatic, very in the moment kind of thing, and I definitely did enjoy that. My fail of the week is just the fact that the Disciples of Death are done. While I didn't necessarily like the story that, they were involved in, just because I don't know, it just never seemed like there was any real momentum for the three of them. There was never really any major thing that made them scary or intimidating, or we really didn't see them do much in the ring. As far as wrestling, there was always outsider interference. There was always some kind of sketchy way that they would win, but it wasn't the dramatic, intimidating force that you would have thought that Mil Muertes and Katrina would have. So that was definitely my fail, is that, not initially that they're over, but the fact that I don't really care. I don't care that, two of them are gone. I think they could have done a better job at telling their story to make me, want to see them more. And I don't know, maybe that's asking too much. Maybe, this was all part of the plan, that they were only in here for, a few months and then would be gone. But yeah, I think that was definitely, my fail. Fails. Well, we have a win from the live chat. Main event, obviously. Main event was so good. So lots of love there. Fail. We've got two fails. El Siniestro de la Muerte, killing both members of the Disciples of Death. And apparently I missed something. I missed a sentence somewhere in the Cueto and Angelico Ivelisse, Son of Havoc segment. But live chat is telling me that Dario Cueto actually stripped them of the title. I don't remember that. I remember the tournament was going to decide who was the champion specifically because they were involved, but I didn't realize that he had taken the titles away from them. So if that's the case, that is pretty terrible. But still, they're in that match. They still have the opportunity to win it again, and it's potentially really likely that they will. So that is it. That is it for this episode of Fans Talk Lucha. This series, as well as the rest of the podcast released through fanstalkpodcast.com, are supported exclusively by our Patreon subscribers, and you can subscribe to today for as little as $1 a month to receive early access to our content, as well as get your ears on some exclusive content that we produce throughout the month. And you can also join us in the live chat. We record Fans Talk Pro Wrestling live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we record every episode of Fans Talk Lucha live 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday nights. All that information is over on the Patreon page, and we also have a Slack community where this is where the live chat is happening right now. So definitely want to send a shout out to Ishmael and Beanbags. Thank you for checking in and partaking in today's conversation. But that's it for this week. We will see you next time on Fans Talk Lucha. Adios.